Hey everyone, welcome back. Part 3. We are working on our file folder journal, and this is the one that I am using the Paper Studio paper with. Excuse me. Again, if you don't have Hobby Lobby where you're at, use whatever papers, decorative papers, and embellishments that you can find. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's open up this paper and see what's inside though. If you're not using this paper kit, and you're using some digital papers or some different scrapbooking papers, and that's great. I'm glad to see you'll be making your journal be all your own style. So if you're going to do that, you're going to want about 10 sheets of scrapbooking paper, okay? Because that's what's in this page kit. And I used pretty much 9.5 sheets of paper, so it took almost all of it. In this kit from Hobby Lobby, which it is, to remind you, it is the number 202 6300 Paper Studio Bees Papercrafting Kit. These are found above the paper pads, but you should be able to get it online. The 202 6300, that's the item number. If you plug that into a Hobby Lobby search, you should be able to find it. Make sure you buy it when it's on sale. I love how they want to make everything look real nice while it's in the packaging, but that's kind of a pain. Okay, so we have a little baggie of die cut items, and I used nearly all of these in my project. I used all of them but 3 items, and there was 2 frames that I didn't use. Other than that, I used, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I used 20 out of the 25 die cuts. So I really got my money's worth with this kit. I did not end up using the alphabet stickers. So those can be used for another project, or maybe you still do scrapbooking. Then there's a sheet of stickers, and I used every single last one of these. And then there are also 10 sheets of paper, and I used almost all the paper except for about a half a sheet. So there were, in this particular kit, there were 2 each of 5 different patterns. Again, use paper that makes you happy, and use paper that you can get a hold of, okay? Go through those scrapbooking paper pads you might have at home and see what you have. Aren't these just adorable? Okay, now these particular papers are single-sided papers. They are white on the back. And with a lot of single-sided papers, they are rather thin, which is perfect for this project because we're going to be gluing a lot of it down to a stiff file folder anyway. So having super heavy-duty paper would just add a lot of bulk and a lot of weight. So using a thinner paper like this is perfect. So if you've got some old scrapbooking paper pads that are kind of thin, you don't really use them for your junk journaling very much, this is a perfect time to get rid of those really thin and flimsy single-sided papers, okay? But I mean, in all honesty though, for a single-sided paper, these feel pretty good. Okay, so that's what I'm using. So let's get started. Here's where we left off. We had our cover made last time, and we had our pockets, our flips, and our flaps. We had A and B and C and D. We're going to set A, B, C, and D off to the side, and we are going to work primarily right now with our big main cover. Okay, so let's just open it up. Got my file folder or my tab to the right, so I'm on the inside of my journal. This is the inside left, and inside right, just in case. And I am going to make this journal right here identical to the one I've already shown you in the very first video. So that makes it easy on me, and hopefully we'll make things go a little quicker. So I will be using if you're using the same kit as me, I will be using this flowered paper right here on the inside. So you're going to need a 12 by 12 sheet of scrapbooking paper, and you're going to need almost the whole thing. You're going to need all but the strip at the bottom of it. So get you a nice full sheet of scrapbooking paper. Okay. And before you get too far gone in all of your paper creating and gluing and all that, you may want to ink up your edges. You may not want to ink up your edges too, and that's just fine. I like the look that it gives. I did inking on my first journal and kind of grunged it up. Now, in the first one, I was using yellow file folders because I had some of those laying around, and they were kind of grungy and old anyway. They had already been used before, and I wanted to just get them used up. This was a perfect way to use up these bright yellow file folders I had, but I don't have any more of those, so I'm using a straight up manila colored file folder, and it matches great with this paper, but I think it's going to look even better if I ink up the edges. So I'm not going to do a bunch of inking on camera. I think it wastes a lot of time sitting and watching a crafter do inking over and over and over again. But I have had people before tell me that not everybody who watches my videos is an experienced crafter, and that some of you want to know how to do inking. So I will show you maybe at the beginning of this video, and I don't know, maybe the beginning of the others. I am using Tim Holtz brand, or a Ranger brand. This is the Tim Holtz line of Distress ink. This is the walnut stain color that I'm using. And I'm just using this little dauber thing. Some people like to use makeup brushes like this, where you can put the ink on like this. Okay. I like to use these daubers because I get a nice crisp dark edge on my inking. So this particular ink pad needs re-inked. So, and I like to go for a nice crisp edge, so I'm just kind of brushing against the edge of my paper to get that nice crisp edge. And there's really just no wrong way to go about doing this. Like, you could sit and just scrub also. See? And I don't really care what it looks like in here. I'm going to cover it all with paper. I'm just making the edges look grungy. Okay? You could even use one of those makeup brushes, and you can sit and scrub on the edge that way. Whatever you want to do. Or don't ink it at all. It doesn't really matter. But that is going to be the step we do before we cover it with paper. So you're going to want to go ahead and ink up your file folder on the inside, the outside, all around, all your creases. You don't have to do the inside of your spine right here because you're going to cover that with paper. But you will want to get the corners of your spine because those will show. Okay. All right. So get that all inked up and come on back. And then we will be ready to put this sheet of paper on the inside. Okay. Okay. So I have inked up all around the edges. And now I'm ready to set my first piece of decorative paper. So I'm really only messing with the front part right now, this front portion, not the back, okay? So I'm actually, let's see. I'm going to unfold my file folder for a moment just so I can see better. And all I'm doing right now is I'm going to measure for the height, the total height. I'm going to do my paper in a couple of different cuts. The first cut I'm going to do is the height. So let me zoom down here. And I have not carried my paper clear to the edge. See, as you can see, I've backed it up just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch. And I like that look because it sort of gives you that matted look, and your file folder can peek out around the edges. So right now I am just measuring for fit. I'm going down to the bottom. Okay, and I'm just marking that. And so I'm cutting off. Let me zoom you back up again. I am just cutting off my paper where it's a little too long. Okay, that's all I'm doing. Ended up being, I cut off about 3.5 inches off of my paper, if you're interested. Okay, so that almost fits. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to do this in 3 pieces, but I want it to look seamless. So I need a panel for this front part, I need a strip for my spine, and then I need a panel for the back. So let me flip this over so I can mark it and see it easier. So I'm coming in away from the edge. Okay, and I'm going to mark just on the inside of my spine. Remember, I like my panel to have some room around it. Okay, so I'm going to cut there. This is going to be my front. And then you can mark these as you cut them if you want to. I'm marking my piece that I'm putting in my spine, just a little bit narrower than my spine. And now let me slide this over. And now I'm marking for the last panel. And in doing my marking and moving, see, now look, I'm away from where I was. That's okay. See, I mark, and that will be cut. And then when it's cut, see if it's right in there, and I mark, and then like that, I will have a nice seamless look, and I didn't waste but this little strip of paper here on the end. Okay, so I'm going to cut everywhere I made a mark, here, here, and here. This is my back panel, and my spine was here in the middle. Okay. So I'm just cutting on my marks that I made. There was my front piece. That goes there. Here's my spine. That goes there. And now cutting off that last mark that I made to get my back panel, and that goes, oops, I flipped it around, didn't I? There we go. That goes there. And so now when I glue those on, see how the pattern is continuous? I get that nice seamless look. Okay, now this one are pretty good. This one here, you'll notice I need to cut out for my flap. So let me move these off. Okay, and let's take a look at this piece right here. And I am not going to do this through the whole video. I'm not going to show you how to cut paper for every single piece of this file folder. I'm going to show you this one time, and then after that, I'm just going to tell you what papers I've used. Okay. All right. So as you can see, my paper needs trimmed for that. Okay, for this. So I've got it pretty much in place. See, I have my space all the way around the edges, my little matting effect. Okay, I'm going to open this up. And this is how I get a nice, perfect look. Okay, without moving my paper. Okay, I held on to it rather tightly. Let me show you one more time. Holding my paper right where it's going to end up being glued. Okay, and I'm holding it nice and firmly. I'm going to turn it over. Boom. And then if I trace this on the back, then I know exactly where my file folder is at. Now I I don't want to glue it clear to the edge. I want it to be a little bit smaller than that. So what I'm going to do now is just slide my file folder down and give myself about 1/8 of an inch. Mark it again. And that's your line you're going to cut, the one we just made, okay? This is the one you're going to cut. The first line you made was just a helper line, okay? Now, you don't have to be that precise. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to things like this. I like things to be perfected. I like it to look seamless. I like, you know, most of you think, oh my goodness, it's going to take me forever if I'm cutting paper that precisely. But this is just how I do it. If you've got a better way, great. If you don't want to be that precise, even better probably. Okay, there we go. Now, flip it back where it goes. And you can see it's darn near perfect. Okay? All right. So that's how I'll be cutting all of my papers to fit precisely. I'm not going to go through that process again though, okay? I think you get the idea now. That would be very boring to watch me do that 100 times. So anyway, this one over here on this side, it's squared and my file folder is rounded. This one I will eyeball. I'm just going to cut the corner off my paper just a little bit, okay? I don't have to be quite that persnickerty. I mean, I know I'm a perfectionist, but this one will be close enough. All right, see, I just trimmed a little corner off, and doesn't that look a little nicer now? Okay, all right. So these you'll want to ink up if you're inking, and if you want to, you'll want to ink those up and get ready to glue those on. The other thing, let's see. Nope, never mind. I didn't do any stitching on these pieces. So, yep, we're just going to ink those up and glue those on. So that is going to go there. I'm going to set them off to the side. I'm not going to glue them on yet, okay? You go ahead and glue yours on, though, if you want to. I'm going to show you the next piece of paper that I used in my original book, and that was the honeycomb paper. So what I'm going to work on now is the paper that's back here in the back of my cover. And you only see it a little bit on this side and a little bit there in the spine, but you do see quite a bit of it over here. And that was the honeycomb paper. And it doesn't take a lot, because when I open this up, there is absolutely no reason to cover the entire inside of this file folder. It's not going to show. I mean, the only way that any of it would show would be if you sat here and opened up this pocket and looked down in there. Now, if that's important to you that you see decorative paper in there, then by all means, go ahead and use more paper to do that. But you're going to need more paper than what I told you if you're going to do that, okay? All right, but I'm not doing that because it's a silly waste of paper. What I am going to do is I only need really just a little bit. I need enough to come down just past this tab right here. I only need a strip of paper about that wide, okay? How wide is that? I need a strip of paper that's about, say, 3 inches would do it, okay? So I'm just going to trim a 3-inch strip of paper off of my honeycomb paper. There we go. I'm going to save all the rest of this for later on. And see, that's about all I'm going to need in there. Anything more than that's just a total waste. Okay? All right. So, again, I'm going to do this in 3 sections. I'm going to honestly, if you didn't want to put any paper over here, that's fine. There is not really that much that even shows. In fact, yeah, I'm still going to do it just because I like the look. I'm still going to glue some on that side. Okay, but don't forget when you're doing it that you want to bump this up for your tab. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to cut that to fit, like just like I showed you before, how I make my cuts, how I make them all precise. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just cutting a piece to go here. I'm taking a little bit behind the spine and a little bit for over here on this side. I'm going to ink those up, and I'm going to glue them down, and I'm going to glue these down after I ink them up, and then I'm going to come back and we'll have just a little bit more time together, and we'll see what we do next. All right, so you should have your papers glued in inside and outside. Nice seamless look there. And then that's my paper for the back. I ended up just cutting this in one piece. I didn't worry about cutting it into 3 pieces. I don't think it's going to bunch that much right there. The reason we do the 3 pieces here and we're going to do 3 pieces on the outside is that sometimes when you glue an entire sheet of paper across and you bend it, sometimes it doesn't bend very nicely. Like when you open it back up, sometimes you'll get gapping or gaping. That's up to you. If you want to do it in one solid piece, do it in one solid piece. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you don't like that, then do it in 3 pieces like I did. Whatever suits your fancy. There are no rules. I think it's Nick the Booksmith, isn't it, that says I'm not your mom? Yeah, well, yeah, not your mom. Do it however you wants to do it. Okay, covering the outside. So this was our front cover. These are our flaps. We haven't got to those yet. Behind this pocket here, that's where I had that paper that I wrapped around the whole back side of the journal. So spine and back. So I'm using the beehive paper for that. And I am cutting that to fit all 3 panels, the front, the back, and the spine. Okay. All right. I'll do that off camera. You don't need me to show you. I'm just going to do my precise cutting method, just like I showed you on the very first piece. That's going to be there on that. Okay, so there is that paper glued on the back, and that is our cover inside and out completed. I think we've got just enough time to maybe work on one of our flaps. So let's work on sticking with the front. Let's go with this flap here. That would be number B, I believe is what we labeled it. Yes, C and D were for the inside. A was the small one on the front, and B is the big one on the front. So we're going to work with number B with the time we have left. And I will show you what I used. So here's our flap, B1, B2. I'm going to flip it over to the back side. So when I open it up, it's going to have a book page. That's what I chose to put on the back, was a book page. Let me find my book pages. And let's see, what did I have there? I put an embellishment down here in this corner. So if my book page is going to have any pictures, I don't think I want them down here in this corner. Otherwise it's going to be kind of busy. So I'm just keeping that in mind as I'm going through my book pages. That I, probably wouldn't want to use this particular book page down there, because then I'd have an embellishment right over the top of those pictures. That one would probably work just fine. I didn't have a lot of this book left. I've used so much of this book up that I don't have a lot of it left. Actually, I may just use this one that doesn't have any pictures on it. And so that is the back side. Yes, okay, so I have B1, B2, there's the tab. I'm flipping it over to the back, and this is the one I'm going to put my book page on. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that to fit there on the back. I'm going to ink it and glue it on. Okay, so that's what's going there. Okay, we've decided that one. We'll flip it back over. The front of the pocket here on the B1, I used this blue paper. And, oh, you can't see because I glued paper there. But if you can see, I did that seamless look again. I just really like doing that. I like things to be cohesive. You may not be near as picky as I am. So that means that this here, the front of B1 and the back of A, these are going to have the same blue paper. So here's A, and then there's the back of it. Okay, so that means this one, the back of A, and the front of B1 here, that's what I'm going to use the blue paper on. And I'm just going to do that nice and seamless across the front of those. Remember, I don't need to put paper on my flap. That would just be silly. Of course, that's probably what you're thinking about me being so particular about my papers. All right. And I will go ahead and just do this one on camera. I am marking for the height. Remember, I'm only doing the front of B1. I'm just going to move B2, the back of the pocket. I'm going to move that out of the picture, okay? And I'm doing, here's pocket A. Okay, there's A1, then the back of the pocket is A2, and I'm decorating the back of A2, so I'm going to pull that piece and throw it out of the way as well, okay? And so when these get glued together, this is what they're going to look like. Okay. So I'm marking for my height. Really, I know I am totally overcomplicating the process of covering file folder with paper, but I'm a perfectionist, and I like that look of things just being seamless across there. I know it's very silly of me. Okay, that's my height. Now I'm measuring for my width. Okay. That's going to go there. I'm going to hold it nice and tight. I'm going to flip it over. Oops. Got a little crazy. Tracing. And then I'm just going to slide my file folder down just a little bit and retrace my line so that I know right where I want to cut. So it's just a little bit smaller. Okay, all right, and that's the piece for there. And then over here, on this one, oh yes, I'm matching up the bottom because I want to go for that look where the paper seems seamless going across there. So I'm matching up the bottom. And I need trace the top where the flap is. You do this however the process works best for you, okay? You do not have to do my crazy perfectionist way of doing things. All right, I'm cutting this to width. But I guess you guys get to see a little bit of my weirdness, my quirkiness. All right, and I already traced that. Okay, so I'm just going to move it down a little bit so I can wrong side. Trim this side down just a little bit more. I think I forgot to mark that side, actually, now that I think about it. Okay, that's going to go just like that. So this one's going to get glued here, that one's going to get glued there, okay? And then, let's see, just so we have some context of what we just did. We did the back side here of A, and we did the front side here of B. That's what we did, okay? And then we look on the back of this flap here of B, we're putting the book page on the back of that. That's what we had already written on there, okay? So I wrote book page on there. So I'm going to trim my book page to fit, ink it, glue it on. I'm going to ink these, glue them on. I'll come right back. Okay, so let's do a quick run through again. We had A1 and A2. On the back side of A2, I have blue. And then I had B1 and B2. And on the front side of the B pocket, that's the other half of the blue. Okay. And then right here on the back of B2, that's the one I did the book page on. Okay. So that when these all get glued together, this will flip open like this. And this one flips open like that. Okay. All right. We just did this side, and that side. Okay. All right. Let's see. Boy, we are really running short on time. I think we may stop there and pick up this when we come back. We're going to work on the rest of the pockets. Okay. When we come back, we're going to work on the front sides here of A. And we are going to work on finishing pocket B, okay? And I'm going to show you how I did my machine stitching so as not to go through all these different layers, okay? All right, so we will cover that in the next video. So in the meantime, happy crafting. Take care, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.